This is Lights of Recovery, the podcast. I'm Jess, the host, and we're just here to hang out and talk about addiction and recovery. Today, I'm interviewing Maricay O'Shea, which is such a lovely rhyming name. And we started talking, we're just meeting today because, you know, it's a podcast. That's what you do sometimes. And
I feel like I've known you forever.
Yes, we've hit it off. So today we're going to be talking a little bit about death and recovery. And it's going to get a little weird. I feel like it's going to get a little morbid. I hope.
I love it though.
So let's start and talk a little bit about you, because you mentioned your own recovery. And so I don't want to focus too much on the trauma porn aspect of let's talk about how up things got. It's valid. And there are definitely channels and stuff for that. And that's an important story to tell. And I don't want to gloss over it, but I'd like to touch on that and then focus more on your recovery. And then also I want to talk about your brother. So what's the Maricay 101? What do we need to know, I guess, about you as a recovering addict?
Well, first of all, you need to know that I was not an addict. That's
okay.
That's where it started. You know, my brother was the addict. I was a teacher. I got straight A's. Even when we were younger, I got good grades. My parents were focused on him. So me, no, I'm good. He was in my head, older, 2 years older, very close. Growing up, I was one of the only girls I was the only girl on our street. So all the neighborhood boys, he was my protector. I looked up to him. I envied him. And then we hit that age. I was 11, he was 13. He was in the middle school age, and I was just getting there, and he started, doing the cannabis stuff. And I remember I was playing in my mom's closet. I love this story. I was playing in my mom's closet. This is how naive I was when I was little. And sixth grade, playing in your mom's closet. And I found her huge Ziploc garbage bag of weed. And I came out screaming, crying, "Mommy's gonna die! Mommy's gonna die!" Because
wow.
the grade, all this stuff that they teach you in school. And I was again, very naive. I was a good kid. This was not supposed to be my journey at all. I was
sure.
Genuinely naive, smartest dumb person, no common sense, but book smart. So I'm screaming, crying, and him and his friend Jay, they sat me down. They're "Okay, it's ours. Mommy found it," and all the things. I was "Oh, okay, thank God." I don't care if you die, but not my mom. I don't know why that. Yeah, I didn't. But that's how it went. I was "Oh, I felt better." Okay, it's not hers, but I just
that's less scary, I think, because we as kids especially we hold our parents up to this standard of, they're not really human. They know everything. They're in control. If everything's going on good with them, I'm good, but siblings, we already can see their faults and flaws because they're peers. So, I mean, I could see why that would be so scary, because you're oh my God, it's mom. Ugh.
Yeah. So I started, I think I was in ninth grade. He used to have, my parents used to own bars and restaurants. So they were never home. By the time we were old enough to watch ourselves, they were they really just didn't care. We were raised by babysitters. On the weekends, they were there on the weekdays. So I had walked out the back patio one day after school. I used to lay out after school. And he was "You got to hit this because I don't want you to tell on me." And I was "Okay." And it was a bowl of weed, and I hit it. Nothing happened. I didn't think anything of it, but I don't know
and
how
that was it. It was that easy for you. It was just sort of do this, and because brother said it was sick. Okay.
Yeah, I never question. You say jump, I say how high. What do you want me to do, Brian? I envied him. He was just the cool person. I just wasn't. I was like a beanpole. I every group has that awkward skinny girl. I was me. My dad had to find special jeans for me because I was tall but super skinny, so nothing fit. Didn't develop until I was 34, nothing. Literally, I just
so relatable.
So it's just a late bloomer. And yeah, I just everything he did, I wanted to do. And after that, like all the neighborhood kids, we all started smoking weed. We used to like get high before seventh grade behind the sign before you get on the bus,
Oh
about
no.
behind like the village sign or Maplewood, whatever. Anyways, um, and then it was like alcohol, but I didn't really like alcohol. Like I would always get sick when I was younger. Hindsight, I did not get sick when I was older. um, but then like pills got introduced like later in the game. You
What
know,
kind of pills was it? Just like,
Xanax,
yeah, okay.
Blackout City. It's my
Oof.
that's my heart and soul right there. So it's still rough to talk about that one. I can talk about all the other ones like zero, given like alcohol doesn't phase me. Marijuana, I'd love to smoke it, but can't. Uh, but do I think about those often too? Like often, like I would just love to come home and go Blackout City, like just take some Xanax, just. But unfortunately, it's not my not my game anymore.
Right.
He was
Well,
like
good
my
for
brother
you.
was like a huge like one of a pretty big drug dealer in the little town we lived in. He dropped out of school. My dad let him drop out of school if he got his GED, and so he just sells
Wow.
Xanax. And he like cut the alarm off my window because again I was like the golden child, did no wrong, and so he was like selling pills out of my window because my parents would never think, they already knew he did it to his, so he was busted with that. And yeah, that's just like when things like started to spiral. Like my dad and him would get into fist fights. Like every holiday was ruined. I hate holidays, by the way, to this day. Hate them, they make me cringe. Christmas, everyone's like yay, I'm like I'd
Mm.
rather no.
So you have a lot
So
of trauma wrapped up in that whole
yeah.
experience. At what
Mm-hmm.
point, if at all, did it shift? Where did you ever experience a resentment towards him or an anger towards him, or did you guys start to have conflict?
Yeah. So when I was 17, my dad got a DUI. So like I was his like driver to like Miami to his best friend Billy. They worked together. They were like closer than brothers. Billy was an alcoholic, like very, very, very bad alcoholic. And so I drive my dad to Miami, and we actually found Billy deceased. He had fallen a couple years earlier and had open brain surgery, and they found that he had a brain of a 70-year-old senile man. He was 45.
Oh, wow. From the
He,
alcohol.
yeah, my dad's
Wow.
actually got like 8 friends from drugs and alcohol that took their lives. But so we found him, very gory scene because he must have had a seizure, and I'm not going to go into details, but it was not something
Sure.
that a 17-year-old should see, touch, look at, all the things. And
And so you're in this sphere of just substance abuse is just sort of kind of the norm, and like, oh, bad shit happens, but we're going to just keep
mhm.
doing our thing.
Yeah, because like we're Irish, so like it was just like all alcohol at that point. Besides like my brother stuff, like my dad's stuff was just alcohol. My dad, he's Irish. He drinks. He's never like affected his life, anything like that. Like, is there alcoholism probably on our family? Yeah, in the genetic gene pool, yes, absolutely. That's why I know now that my brother was the way he was. Um, so my mom and my brother were actually up in PA at that time. He was in rehab or something. One of my grandparents was sick. So like they came home for the funeral and went back up the next day. So now I'm 17. I just found homeboy like mass murder scene almost. I got
Yeah.
my dad who's like a 6'2", big Irish dude, weeping on the couch in fetal position, weeping like a baby. I didn't know what to do.
And
Like
you're a kid. You're a kid.
I'm a
You're, no
kid.
matter
I'm also
how
exactly.
mature you think you are, you're a kid trying to process that and manage that and figure out how to deal with that moment.
And God forbid you think maybe we should put her in therapy. Nope. So like that was when it kicked in.
For
Like
you,
f
substance abuse and
yeah.
stuff.
Well, that's when like the resentment stuff started. So
I
like
gotcha.
F you to her because you abandoned me. Like I'm your daughter. And that's your husband, and you're gonna go chase again. You're gonna go chase him and his addiction. Like he doesn't want help, all the things. Like he's already been to treatments, he's already been, X, Y, and Z. You guys are spending hundreds of thousands of dollars, not just like little grant, like hundreds of thousands of
Right.
dollars. Because, he had to go to the good places. And that was when it started, but that's when I learned how to manipulate her. Um,
Interesting.
so when they came back, like my dad let him move back in the house, and he'd, go to uh, out there on Atlantic Boulevard in Cracktown, we used to call it, and, threaten us and say, oh, they have a gun to my head. They stole this. Like, I need $20. And my mom would wake me up in the middle of the night at like 17, 18, 19 years old. Again, still a kid. And
Honestly.
I'd be like, I'll get up and go with you, but you're going to give me some pills. Or I'll get up and go with you, but you're going to give me some weed. Because we smoked weed for the first time at Billy's funeral. And that was a wrap.
Together,
like,
you and your mom?
Mm-hmm. So
So
that was
was
a wrap.
that actually her weed that you found as a kid?
Mm-hmm.
And so your brother like covered for it and...
They were already smoking weed at that time.
Got it.
Or she knew he was smoking weed. So it was like my brother and my mom and me and my dad. But like they were still married.
Right. But there was certainly conflict there. And then that's kind of where the alliances, I guess, formed. Okay.
Yeah. And she just taught me how to like lie, steal. Like we're going to steal money from your dad, but always to give to Brian. It's Brian, 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 Brian.
So you were, in essence, the golden child because you didn't really do anything wrong and didn't really get in trouble. But Brian was sort of, I'm trying to think of like a different analogy, but he was like the problem kid, but still got all of the attention, all of the money, the resources, the time, the everything. And you were kind of along for the ride for that.
So like I was able to keep my addiction, my mental health very, very, very hidden. Like I said, I got good grades.
So where did it start to go off the rails for you when it became like, looking back, maybe you didn't recognize it then, but looking back, like, okay, this was unsustainable. I mean, I guess I should clarify, like, it's never sustainable, right? But
Yeah.
where did it start to get like really, really dangerous?
Well, 16.
Okay.
That was like when like I out of control. Another situation traumatic happened to me via my brother's drug dealer. So
Okay.
there was a lot.
We don't have
of
to talk about it if you don't want to
yeah,
get
yeah.
into the
No,
details.
I'm not gonna go. Like it's not important. It's just like that was there, and I couldn't say anything, right? Because I'm gonna kill them. I'm gonna kill your family. All the things, and I was scared.
Right.
16 years old,
Right.
So I developed an eating disorder. Again, going back to like beanpole, it was not about the weight. I didn't have control. Didn't have control. Brother had an addiction. They don't pay attention to me already. Like, hey, I'm here. Like, I see him doing all these things and he's getting attention. So let me try to do this and let me see if I can get the attention. I just never got it.
Plus, my understanding of eating disorders as well are that in a world where you feel that you don't have any control, not just for attention, but you don't feel like you might not have control over your own body or over your environment or over the relationships in your life or any number of those things. And so you can control the amount that you're eating, what you're eating, etc. I also want to make sure I'm speaking delicately about this because I don't want to delve into anything that's like true triggering or whatnot. So stop me as well, or I don't want to be triggering to an audience as well.
Right. It's not going to be triggering to me. I did a lot of work on all of these things. So like, I'm good with it, but that's why like the stuff, the details is not important. Cause again, the audience is what's, most important, but it's part of my story. A lot of it's part of my story. And yeah, that's when it like spiraled. That's when I like learned how to cope in really unhealthy ways. Like I didn't know what anxiety was, right, growing up. But whenever my dad and my brother would get into these fist fights, I'd go in my room and I'd sit and I'd put makeup on for like hours and I'd take it off and I'd make it all perfect. And now I find myself as a 39-year-old adult, before I go to work, I put a full face of makeup on. And it's not because I think I'm ugly. Like people tell me, you look a lot better without makeup on. I'm like, I know, but I'm anxious in the morning.
So it gives you tools. That's like a healthy coping mechanism. Mm-hmm. That's a positive one that, because we talk about coping mechanisms and stuff and like the go-tos are like, exercise, listen to music, but there are so many other ones that are neutral or positive that we adapt that we just don't even realize, fidgeting, putting on makeup, that kind of stuff.
Right now I'm sticking my finger into my finger because I'm anxious. Yep. I'm really anxious.
I'm always anxious when I'm on camera. So I have my pencil. At some point it'll be a keychain, any number of things.
Just on camera, I'm like 96.7% of the time I'm anxious of the day, all days of the week.
Do you feel like the anxiety also played into the substance abuse for you? Was it kind of like
yeah, for sure, because the Xanax, like, that's what they make them for, right?
Yes.
Justification, rationalization. Yeah, that was like the first thing that I could like take that like took everything away. Like, oh crap, like, wow, I don't feel all that anymore. And again, I didn't know what anxiety was, but I think I was always anxious, due to my circumstances, like in the house. And I just like those things. I mean, they hijacked my soul.
Yeah.
And I didn't care who I hurt in the process. I had a great boyfriend when I was 22. I mean, he's somebody near and dear to my heart to this day, but like, wow. And he was like, told me like, I'll smoke weed, drink, but that's a wrap. And I pop him behind his, back, like doing crazy stuff, like stealing, like things that I don't need.
Right.
Because that's what they do. And that went on for, years. And again, like very, very hidden. Got a DUI when I was 25, but who doesn't have a DUI? No, I'm just kidding. It's not cool. But yeah, I did get a DUI when I was 25, right when I graduated from college with my bachelor's in
So
education.
You still went to college, you still graduated. So all of this is giving like functioning alcoholic.
Thank you, Vicodin. Thank you,
honestly,
Vicodin.
Like
I got into like a bunch of car accidents.
Mm-hmm. And you're using to get on by. And on, right, and self-medicating in really unhealthy ways. And you're still, on paper, very successful, checking the boxes. Mm-hmm. And so, yeah, it's like, it's so insidious sometimes how addiction and substance abuse and issues like that just can lie under the surface. Like, I talked in other podcasts too about like, for me, kratom was a huge addiction. That was an ongoing, like a back and forth issue that I had. And it's something that I won't touch the stuff. I'm also, listen, don't come for me, internet. We're not going to fight about this. Because I know there are a lot of very pro kratom people out there. We're not having that discussion. I'm just talking about my individual experience. Okay. So don't come fight me. But for me, that's not something I can have. But I was functioning. I was getting to work every day. Mm-hmm. I was, staying up when it became like a work from home situation, I was staying up 1-2 days in a row, like just all kinds of stuff. But because it was hidden, people didn't realize how bad things were. I didn't even realize how bad things were because I was able to justify, maybe this was the case for you too. I was able to justify in my head, well, I'm still going to work every day. I'm still, fulfilling my obligations. The bills are paid. I'm not, not doing anything.
I didn't have a drug dealer. So I never had a drug dealer. So that was my thing. Like I get these from doctors. I don't know, like alcohol's social thing. Me and my dad go out and drink together. Like,
right. It's
I've crashed all of his cars, but I'm okay. I'm fine.
This is a perfectly legal substance. Because I dabbled with some alcoholism in 2020, like a lot of people did. And yeah, it's perfectly legal. And, what are we supposed to do? It's COVID and it's lockdown and, nothing matters. Ha ha ha. And everybody's drinking. So at what point did, some people call it rock bottom or an epiphany or whatever. What was your moment of like, okay, like the holy shit moment?
I call it the rabbit hole. Okay. So I was in the rabbit hole. I would say like probably like when I like entered the era of 30, like that's when like things just like, I like somebody should have told me you have a problem. And I was just drinking all the time, just drinking. And I always had the Xanax, right? But I'd get my prescription and the DEA like cut down on that stuff. Because in college I was getting like Vicodin by like the bottle full. It didn't even matter. Doctor this, doctor. But they cut down on that stuff. So like I'd get my Xanax and I just get like the 0.5s.
Sorry.
Vicodin was college. Vicodin was
just
college.
For users. Or not users, oh my God, watchers, viewers. I'm good at words. That's why they let me do this podcast. So Vicodin is an opioid and Xanax is a benzo. So yeah, you've got pain pills and we've talked about the opioid epidemic on this podcast, the other podcast, and then we have benzos, which is Xanax. So you have like two things that are potentially sedating you and numbing
Yeah.
you and are also not very good to mix. So back to you.
I never really enjoyed the opioids, whatever you want to call them. I know one's synthetic, one's not.
Both.
They just like, when I first started taking them, like when I was getting in the car accidents, I would just like get them from the doctors. They would just like make me so like zoomy. Like I could like
Hmm.
get 17,000 things done. If I took one right now, I'd probably be passed out in this chair. Like it doesn't do the zoomies anymore. It's like you chase that high, that first high. So like I got through a lot of like my college work, like just taking a bunch of pain pills because I'd be, up. So that
That's
got
how
me through
kratom
college.
affected me. Yep.
Yeah,
That's,
yeah.
yep.
But the with the benzos, like I'd get my script 30.5s and they'd be gone in 2 days because I would just
Wow.
like tic tacs. And then I had to wait, obviously, until 28 days, 25 days to get my script refilled. So what did I do? Like any good alcoholic, I drank. I
And
just
then
drank. And
so this is spiraling and then your
mhm.
rabbit hole. What was the like
So
holy shit,
rabbit
I need help.
rabbit hole was I would say like 33, 32, 33. I was like severely depressed. Like when I tell you the thought of getting in the shower was debilitating. I couldn't do it. Like taking off my clothes, like physically painful. I lived with, thank God bless her, assistant principal that I used to work for. She took me in because I went back home after a boyfriend and me broke up, and she's like, "You can't live at your house. So just like come." She let me live rent free. Like she was just like my savior and grace, and I would
Shout
just
out to
like be
her.
shout out Porter. But I'd be in the room for like days and days and days. And she would at first, like, it was funny, like, oh, every 3 days I got to check on you to see if O'Shea's alive. Like that was a joke at first, but then it wasn't changing. And again, I'm very good at compartmentalizing. So I'd wake up for work, I'd go teach, highly effective teacher in a school board. I don't know, Broward County School Board. Uh,
So
but then
you're
I came
showing
home.
up, you're checking the
Mhm.
boxes and,
Yep.
hiding it from everyone. And then you
Hmm.
come home and deflate like a balloon.
Yeah, and it was just alone. Like I was one of those alone people. Like I drank alone, I used alone. Um it was shameful. Like again, my brother is the addict alcoholic, not me. I'm a teacher. I'm on my high horse. So it was very
Mm-hmm.
alone. It was very hidden, but like I hated myself. Hated myself. I didn't like her. I didn't even know why I didn't like her, but like I just hated her. So I just like try to like mask and numb, and I didn't want to feel like anything, happiness, sadness, just didn't want to feel. So started getting really bad ideations around like 33, like 2017, 2018. I was like 33 going into
Mm-hmm.
34. I was in and out of the psych ward 6 times in 3 months. My best
Wow.
friend, Dr. Green, we worked together at the middle school, and he'd have to go into the principal and be like, O'Shea will be out for 3 days. And then my assistant principal at that time, he started noticing the weight gain, the eating disorder was back. Because again, now I'm out of control. Like drinking, it's not doing it
Nothing's filling the
anymore.
void. So we're
Mm-mm.
just
So
everything.
what do I go back to 16-year-old Mary Kay. I remember how that felt. Let me try that again. I'm 5'7". It's probably like 125. I dropped to 107.
Ooh.
Um, yeah. And like people from the district were noticing because like they'd always come in my classroom because I was a really good teacher, and they'd be like, "Oh, what's wrong with O'Shea?" So like he'd tell me like make dinner and like I want to see pictures. So I'd make dinner and I'd throw it away after I sent him a picture. I was living
Wow.
on Publix macaroni and cheese. I'd eat that like a whole box, and then I wouldn't eat for like 5 days. And then I'd eat like a half a pizza, like a large pizza, and then I wouldn't eat for like 7 days. I was staying like up all hours of the night, just binge watching true crime. Then the Douglas shooting happened. That was a rivalry high school of mine. I went to Terravella, and that was Douglas. My therapist thinks that there's like some like underlining PTSD because after that I got paranoid. So I got a bulletproof backpack. When a student would like try to pull out their cell phone, I'd like freak out. Like everything became like I don't even know. So the drinking got worse. The Xanax got worse. That now I'm on Ambien too because I can't sleep, right? Because,
Oh gosh,
I'm
right.
up
And
all
so it's
hours of the night.
just wow.
So I was in the psych ward one of my last times. I would go in for ideation, so I would scare myself enough to like go. And I didn't want to see my parents. I didn't want to see anybody. I wanted to see Porter. And she came. And I remember she sat across from the table. She goes, "Look," she goes, "I love you, and you're like a sister, and you will always have a home. But I can't continue to come home and think every time I open my door, I'm going to find you dead." I would drink on the kitchen floor next to the dishwasher with a plastic shot glass of warm Tito's, and just want to die. 34 years old. Like, that's sad. Like,
Right. And
sad.
what a loving but important gesture that she made where,
Mm-hmm.
this is something I just talked to somebody else about recently, that until you love someone with addiction, there's no way to fathom what an emotional journey that is, because
Mm-hmm.
there are all these reasons to give up on them. And sometimes we stick around and we keep giving them chances, and sometimes we don't. And, it's very, very hard to be able to do what she did and put up that boundary and say, listen, I love you,
Mm-hmm.
and you mean a lot to me, but this particular behavior is not acceptable, whatever that is. That's so, so, so hard. That's hard anyway, just to put
Mm-hmm.
up boundaries in life. So for her to do
Mm-hmm.
that is good for her, for herself, and also, for doing that for you, because it sounds like, you didn't really have anybody snapping and
Mm-mm.
being like,
I
hello.
wouldn't have went. I wouldn't have, like, that statement like made, like, that was the turning point. That was like, oh, okay, like, what? Okay, like, because that we're on like year 3 or 4 by this time now. Me living with her, and like she was she's an only child, so like she didn't. This wasn't like I was a liability. She was an assistant principal, like, and she has this like lunatic, alcoholic, depressed girl living in her apartment. Like, I was a liability, and she just loved me. Like, I went to her family's for Christmases when like stuff was rough with my family. Like, they just embraced me, and like, unconditional. And she didn't have to. She didn't owe me anything. She didn't, and nothing. And I wasn't paying rent. Like, it came a point where I was like, can I just like pay for something? Like, and it was like the first year I didn't pay for anything, nothing. Where did all my money go? To the bartenders.
Wow.
Paid their rent. But yeah, so that was like a turning point. And then like the assistant principal, he was like the other onset. He told me about FMLA because I was like, Atwood, I can't just leave these. It's February 2008. I can't just leave. I had my second DUI now. Um, and he's like, yes, you can, O'Shea. You will have your job when you come back. You need to go get help. And I was like,
That's
okay.
amazing.
So my mom wanted to do the whole like cannabis will fix you, like come home and like we'll just lay in bed all day and smoke weed. So I was like, okay, let's do that. Um,
So
so
you
we
tried
did
that,
that.
and how did that
Yeah,
work
yeah, I
out for
tried
you?
that. I was miserable. Like, I was like, I gotta go. So like the guy Billy, the one that my dad and I found, his daughter was up in Ocala, and she's sober now. She works at a treatment center up there, the guest house. Shout out. Um, she's doing really
Yes.
well, and she was trying to get me up there, but they didn't take my insurance. So she was trying to like get me a scholarship, and I was like, Jess, I gotta go. Like, if I don't go now, like, I gotta go. I'm super ADHD, so like I am medicated for ADHD. Um, that was never a problem. Again, I like to go night night. I like the downers. Blackout
Right.
City.
So you weren't abusing the
Mm-mm,
uppers. You were using them as
mm-mm.
intended. They were helping you at the end. Right.
Yeah, so I just like sat at my parents' dining room table one day, and I just like did all the things, and I found this place saved my life. So I'm gonna give a shout out to Evolutions in Fort Lauderdale.
Yay. Shout
Randomly,
out
just again,
Evolutions Fort Lauderdale.
like, I found it like on my own. I was like, okay, dual diagnosis, because again, I'm not an alcoholic or an addict. I'm depressed and I have an eating disorder. So I need this place because they do mental health.
Aha.
So I was like, all right. So I called the admissions guy, Rob, and he still works there. Um, He was the first person in my life, 18 years, that I ever told about 2 of my traumas. Never told a
Wow.
friend, not a not a teacher, not a parent, nobody. And I just like vomited of the mouth.
Why do you think? Do you think you were just at such a I'm ready point, or was there something about him that compelled you to want to share?
I was done. Like I was like a prisoner in my head. Like I didn't know what else to do. I was like, I like the rabbit hole was just, I was so in it and I couldn't get out. And I was like, well, if I'm going to do this, like, do you have some
Yeah.
time to talk, Robs? Because and he was so compassionate, like so patient with me. I think I had him on the phone for like an hour and 45 minutes. No lie. I remember I was like pacing. I was
Wow.
going in and out of the house, down the sidewalks. My dad wouldn't let us smoke cigarettes like in the house, so we'd have to like go in the middle of the street because teach us a lesson. And yeah, I just like that. I just let it all out and went to treatment.
How long was your treatment for?
I did like the detox res PHP, like a total of 3 months, summer camp, all the things. I
Hmm.
was a nightmare when I first got there. I was kicking over garbage cans. I was punching headboards. I was trying to go get them to take me to the hospital, like screaming, crying, oh, my heart, all the things because I wanted drugs. They told me
So
that they
you
were going to give me my drugs. They said, bring all of your prescriptions. I said, okay, because you're going to give them to me, right? Because they're prescribed for me. I need them. Bitch looked at
so
my
you
dad.
were
She goes, you
still
want
going
to?
to get help for like depression but not for substance abuse at this point. You were like, no, I'm
No,
fine.
and these were my prescriptions. I needed these Xanax. I needed
Right.
I needed all these things. So I remember the nurse was like, looked at my dad. She goes, so we're gonna either like dispose of these or you can take them. And I was like, no, no, whoa, 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 take what? No, whoa. These are prescribed. They're from my doctor. Like I really
Right. My doctor
thought
said
like
it's fine.
so like oblivious to like everything, to myself. And yeah, it was like a nightmare. It was a raging nightmare. There was this kid there, Seth. We hated each other, and he just called me out one day in group. He's like, you're an alcoholic. I was like, no, I'm not. And he's like, yeah, you are. And I was like, you, like left group. I went back down to my room and I was like, am I?
Oh no.
What?
Wow.
And that was like a game changer for me. I like started looking at myself different. I started looking at the other people there that like I may have been judging as like, oh, you're just like me. Oh, I'm just like my brother. Oh, this sucks. How did I get here? Type stuff, and
Wow.
I did the whole bit, like threw chairs across the pool at the lady screaming, "Hey, Ron," because she just pushed my buttons. I was like, it was a joke to me. Like, it wasn't like, not that I like didn't do work. I love my therapist, but I didn't get it. Right. So I got out, hated sobriety. I did it for 3 months. I was miserable. So what does a good master manipulator do? Go to the psychiatrist. Hey, doc, they were giving me Klonopin in treatment, so I'm out of my script. I need a new one. Here you go.
Oh
I went home and
wow.
I took the whole bottle. I said, I'm checking out. I can't do this anymore. That was attempt number 2.
Mm.
And I was done. I was like, that's a wrap.
So you
I
were
can't do this.
done. Got it.
I was like, I can't do this messed up. I can't do life messed up. I can't do life sober. Like I can't do life. So it's a wrap. It's time to go. I like sent out these mass text messages to like everyone. And my best friend, my ride or die, Dr. Green, he actually called Billy's wife, widow. And he's like, something's not right. Like she's like telling us how much she loves us and stuff. Like she like
So
doesn't
yeah,
have a heart.
there's that intuition. Listen to
So
that gut
right back to the
instinct.
psych
Yeah.
ward, right back to the psych ward I go, and I was back in evolutions three days later, and I didn't have to go to detox, but I asked them if I can go to detox. My therapist, the first time, she had moved to the detox, and I was like, I'm not doing anything until like Jackie says what to do. Like she's has to tell me what to do. Again, I had another preconceived notion that these therapists were going to fix me. Like I teach kids how to do math, she's going to fix me, right? That's what she gets paid for. Didn't
Right.
think I had to do anything. I just got to
Right.
show
You don't
up.
have to do the work. She's just going to, talk to me until my
Yeah.
brain is good. Yeah.
Yes. Yes. So they had me like do like the blind weighing, like I had to like weigh backwards and threatens to like, kick me out if I don't start eating and all the things. But like it wasn't until evening IOP when I got the right one.
Yeah.
Oh, I got the right therapist. Oh my God, I got the right one. She's the reason why I sit in the chair I sit in.
Okay, tell me about her. I want to know all about her.
So
we can
her name
shout
is
her out.
Michelle. Her name is
Shout out
Michelle. She is this tall, beautiful. She had this long black hair, stilettos, and she'd come in. She'd have groups. She'd be like checking in. We'd be like, "How are you feeling, Michelle?" To feel like a rock star in sunny South Florida, and it's just like, "Fuck this bitch!" Like this, like we're all miserable, and like you're. But I mean, like, couldn't manipulate, couldn't lie. She would tell me, sit with that, sit with your shit. Like, okay, sit with your shit. And like, she was on my case about, Matt, my boyfriend from treatment. She hated it, hated it. Hated that I was allowed on ADHD meds in treatment. Like, I hated her. I have notebooks, pages of how I was going to take her shoe and stab her in the neck and like all the things. And
Oh my
I don't know
God.
when, I don't know when or how it clicked. What was the light bulb? Because I didn't listen. Matt and I were a total thing throughout the whole time. Like we even left at one point and did like a 2-week bender, but like I don't know what the kicker was. Like what got me. But she just I don't know, she was it. Like I needed her. I needed that person to like tell me you are a piece of shit. Like get your life together. What are you doing?
And hold you to that and keep showing up for
Yes.
you in that way. Yeah.
And she would make me do these crazy homework assignments, right? Like, cause I'm a writer, like through and through. So she'd like make me write, like, I'm addicted to chaos. So I'd like, for a week, like I'd be writing a piece and then I'd come bring it to group. I had to write a letter to my brother. I had to write a letter to my mom. I had to, write all the letters, all the things. And like, they were powerful. And like, she would sometimes get like, choked up. She never cried because she's her cold heart, black heart. Um, but true, like honestly, like I wouldn't be sitting here today if it wasn't for her. And I've told her this numerous times, like you saved my life, and she'll always be like, I didn't do anything. You did the work. And I get it now as a therapist. Like my clients say it, I'm like, I could sit here. I get paid to sit here and literally just listen to you. I watch the magic.
So now
happen.
you're a therapist. You're the Michelle.
Mm-hmm. Well,
So
yeah. So she encouraged me. She's like, you got to do something with your story. And again, like I didn't have a license. I lived 25 like minutes away from the evening IOP and I Ubered. I had to really humble myself. My work was like 20 minutes away. Like I really had to humble myself. Like, and not that I was ever spoiled, but like I never had a car payment. I like just started making car payments and I'm 39. I was very grateful. Like my dad was always able to allot me like a vehicle. And when I got that DUI, like Florida's like, second one, that's a wrap. Year and a half.
Right, you're done.
Nothing.
Yep.
And my dad turned in the plates because he knows his daughter would have taken the car anyways. So he turned those plates in. Good drive the car now.
So there were sometimes consequences. It was just,
My dad was. My father was. My mom and my dad were never on the same page. My mom was our friend. My dad was a parent.
Got it.
I needed parents. She was allowed to smoke cigarettes driving to school at 16 years old. Like I look at 16-year-olds now, I'm like, did you just come out of the womb? Because you are a little tiny. Like you are tiny.
That's part of aging. It's like, oh my gosh, I can't imagine.
I wasn't that little. I was not that little.
No, of course not. And we knew so much more. Yeah, for sure. I want to touch on a little bit what you said about being a writer too, because Chris sent me a post that you wrote about your brother. Mm-hmm. And I want to, make sure we wrap up talking about you before we go into that. But you wrote something that was incredible. And I don't know if we can maybe share it. Maybe we'll post it at the bottom of this, and maybe we won't. Maybe users. I keep thinking of like, you're like internet users or subscribers, but no, you're literally just viewers. So maybe the audience can just imagine that it's amazing. But listen, I'm a very picky writer. I'm the editorial director for addictionhelp.com, humble brag. And I'm very picky and it's excellent. So you were a great writer. And I don't say that lightly.
Was this year's post?
It was February 8th, 2023. Yep. Do you have any siblings?
Oh, that was last year's. That was the first post, right? Because so my writing is usually like where I'm at, like in my headspace. So like the first year, I was like, that's such an awkward question now. Like, do you have any siblings? I don't know. I don't know. Do I? He's dead. Like, I do. He's in heaven. I don't know. It made me feel awkward, so I just like wrote it.
So you got help. You went to treatment, but so what is a little bit more of Brian's story, if we can segue a bit there?
Yeah. So, again, we had a really great childhood. Like, we never wanted for anything. Like, we weren't rich by any means, but like, we were okay. Like, we lived in Coral Springs, Florida. Like, good neighborhood, in Maplewood. Not the villa, not the estates or whatever it is, because we weren't that rich. But we weren't in the villas. We were in the. We were well off. Like, it was okay. Never, wanted for anything. All of our needs were met. We went on vacations. We were like a tight. We went to church every Sunday and then went to Wags for breakfast after. I hated it, but we did it. It was our family thing. We sat down and had dinner as a family every night in
Wow.
our assigned seats at the dinner table, the four of us. Like, it was just like we had a really great childhood. Cayman Islands, like we had, it's just, and then he started smoking weed, and now knowing what I know about addiction, like being educated, like the biopsychosocial model. And I know there's a lot of different models for addiction, but that's the one that Mary Kay, believes in, like has followed or like studied, and it
What's
makes the most.
what's a
I'm sorry, go
quick,
ahead.
for people listening that don't know what that is? What's a quick, like, 101 summary on what that means?
So biopsychosocial, the you are your disease of addiction. It can come at you from three different angles. So you can either have it biologically, which is the genetic component, which we don't know that we have it until we start using, and our brain goes, hey, that's it. Then you have the psycho, which would be like any type of trauma. Then it skews how you view yourself, you view others, and you view the world. So if you got that going for you, so there's your segue into addiction. Or your social, like your environment. People that grow up with the drugs and alcohol around them are more likely, not that it doesn't hit everybody else, but more likely you know to get involved in it. So when you have all three, no, I didn't have really
Right.
the social. Yes, I did. When you have all three, it's like it's a wrap. Now, my brother, for years, I hate it. I hate it. Why? Why do you do all this? Why is your life so messed up? No trauma, no assaults, no. Like I said, we had a great childhood. Why are you? I know why I use. I know why I use. By the time I was 21, I knew why I used.
Right. You're like,
One
I'm
hundred
broken
percent.
and I've had all this terrible shit happen to me. What's
Yes.
your excuse slash
Yes. And
problem?
oh my God, I hated him for years. Jessica, for years, I hated him. And you should read my post about this year, because it goes into how angry I was this year with the second year, like probably at myself more than him, but like biologically, we're Irish. It's somewhere in there. I'm not like trying to stereotype Irish people, but like, come on, we drink. Like it's there, and
it's
maybe
a
it was
it's a
on the
very
bico
strong
side.
cultural thing, and that is
Yeah.
true with many cultures. Like, even growing up, my grandmother talked about, because we're English on that side of the family, or British, whatever you want to
Mm-hmm.
say. And she would say that, oh yeah, I've had beer since I was a kid. It was just what you did. It was
Mm-hmm.
just a culture, and it's not drinking to get drunk when you're little. You just, like, you have little things with dinner when you're
Mm-hmm.
like 9 years old, and it's just like a non-issue. And then you have all these issues later on with, alcoholism and substance abuse and stuff. And people are like, oh gosh, like, how did that happen? It's kind of like what you talked about with that model that I'm going to say wrong. It's the
Biopsychosocial.
biopsychosocial.
Yeah.
Yeah, I
Have you ever
got
been
it.
to? You don't have to answer this, but anyone who's been to treatment, that very first session you have with your therapist, they ask you all the questions, like any history, how is your home life? That we're trying to get the whole model. We're trying to get the
Uh-huh.
biopsychosocial. That's why we ask all those questions, and they go in like a type of order. It gives us the whole picture of you, so we can, as the clinician, figure out where is the addiction coming from. Because nobody
That
wakes
makes
up and says,
sense.
I'm going to be an addict today. I'm going to ruin my
Right.
family's life, ruin my life. This is what I want to be when I grow up. No one does that.
Right.
Like, no one. I mean, maybe
No, I have
there's
not
one
been
or
to
two people.
treatment, but therapy, yes, lots of therapy. My current
They might
therapist
have done a
is a
biopsychosocial on
queen.
you. I don't know.
Probably. Yeah, because we've talked about substance abuse issues that I've had, and I don't think I am what's considered probably a classic addict, because I am able, once I get out of like habits and patterns of use, I am able to pick up and leave alone, just depending on the situation. But I still am very careful about it anyway, if that
Mm-hmm.
makes sense.
Yeah.
So your brother is not, well, he is kind of with us, but he's not actually here on the material plane
Oh,
with us.
oh, he's here every single night. He is in my dream in some aspect. He will
Really?
not leave me. I had to talk to my therapist about it last night. I'm like, yo, I'm like, what are your thoughts on dreams? Because he's steady in them. If the dream isn't about him, he's like a character, or like we're having a fundraiser for him, or he's just like in the background. But he's there.
So he's
Like
related to the
I was
dreams.
I was having terrors, like I was having night terrors
Mm.
after he died. Like that he was like alive in the dream, then he died, and then he's alive, then he died, and I'd wake up and be like, is my brother alive or dead? And I'd be like, oh fuck, he's dead. It was like 2 weeks straight. Back to back to back to back. So I did get put on some night terror medication because I was also having dreams that my uncle was holding me underwater and I would wake up gasping for air. So I had to like I wasn't sleeping. I was also going through some hella insomnia. Um,
That sounds
but
so
yeah,
fun.
so
So
yeah,
you were
so
sober when he died?
yeah, so this is a very interesting part of my journey, and this is like where the meat and potatoes is. So I know I rambled for like the past, I don't even know how long
That's
we've been
fine.
talking,
If we
but
need to make two
this is
episodes, we'll do two episodes. So if this ends up being two episodes, welcome back to part two.
it.
Or maybe it's just a really
um,
long episode, but this is good stuff. Like this is what we're here to
yeah,
talk
so
about.
this is it. Like this is what like if anyone doesn't take anything from my story, like I hope that they take this last part because if you were to ask Mary Kay 5 years ago, what would be your like what you don't care, you're going out, you're using. I would say somebody dying, like somebody I'm close to dying. So COVID hit. You were talking about COVID earlier, and they shut the schools down. So yay, I'm like teaching behind a computer screen with no kids there. So fun.
Ooh.
So my therapist, Michelle, she's like, well, you started your master's. You're not going to get like the hands-on training because you're doing it online. So come run groups with me in the morning. And I was like, okay. Yeah. So I did. I went, I'd run groups with her. I'd sit in the lounge and I'd do my master's, homework. And like buddy of mine like came up one day and he's like, have you been on Facebook? And I was like, have you? Like, is this a trick question? He's like, yeah, look on Facebook. And I opened it up and my friend Danny died. And like Danny and I had been in like kind of like a fight. We were like back and forth. And in hindsight, I should have known he was using. But again, like I was still very naive to the whole thing. Like I didn't do that. Not that again, it doesn't make me any special or any, but like I didn't understand. I didn't see the signs yet. I wasn't educated, all the things. So I remember running into Michelle's office and I was crying, like, Danny's dead. She looked at me and she goes, okay, so what are you going to do about the other one? Didn't hug me, didn't say, are you okay? Didn't embrace me. She said, what are you going to do about the other one? And I said, I'm not feeling this way. It's a wrap. So I started putting boundaries between Matt and I. And this was somebody like, I mean, I was trying to get pregnant so he would get sober. Like I loved this kid, like loved him.
Wow.
I was like, I can't, I'm not doing this. I'm not feeling this way again. Cause again, my dad's had friends that have died, but never somebody that I've known. Like
Right. So now
grandparents died.
you
Yes.
have
They
had
were
your
like,
face smushed into this
yeah,
horrific reality.
yeah.
So your friend died of an overdose, I'm assuming. Like that's how.
yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, we were in like a little tiff, and usually like I would always reach out to him, and be like, okay, are we done fighting now? And I was just like, I'm not doing it this time. Like, just like, oh, but it's like,
Oof.
I don't live like I'm not God. Like I didn't know. How was I supposed to know that was going to be any different? So I started putting boundaries between Matt and I, like really did. Like I wouldn't pick up when he called. Like I just, that was it. Like I wasn't going to do that. But like we were still, here and there. And Matt, let me preface by saying, like Matt was a upper user. He did the crack. He smoked crack, and I'd cry sometimes when we were together. I'd be like, "You're gonna die!" Like, because again, I didn't know. I thought, and he's like, he'd laugh and be like, "I don't, Mary Kay, I don't do drugs that kill me. Like, I smoke crack, and I, still be all scared and stuff." And so boundaries were up and all the things. August 6th, 2020, my parents were moving to Pennsylvania. It's 8 something in the morning. He comes on the messenger because he sold his phone, the week before or whatever. And he's like, please come get me. I had gotten my car back by this time. He's, please come get me. And I was like, I was mad at him because he OD'd the week before. He
Oh
told
my
me in
God.
his
Matt did.
and his parents. He was back living with his parents,
That's so
and he
weird. I'm
owed.
pretty sure I remember you telling me that he said that he didn't do bad drugs that would hurt him. So how do you OD on drugs that don't hurt you? That's so weird.
I didn't get it. I didn't
Yeah,
connect
bless
the
your heart.
dots.
Honestly.
Again, I'm still thinking like, oh, you smoke crack and OD'd, like in the back. Like that's where my head was. I didn't
Wow.
get it yet. And I was mad at him, right? I was mad. And I was like, I'm not coming to pick you up. It's 8 o'clock in the morning. What am I gonna do with you? My parents are leaving today. Please, you're the only one I have. I'll explain everything when you get here. I was like, no, no. I have to go see my parents. He's like, all right, have a great day. And I just like carried on with my day, saw my parents go. And then like the next day I went to get my like out of treatment tattoo, just time and space, because my therapist was like, you just need time, right? You just no, I just wanted to do it my way. But anyways, I wanted him to go with me, but it was COVID and my tattoo guy said no. So I was like, oh, I'll just like go show him afterwards. But like again, he was back living home with his parents, and like I was just the girlfriend from treatment, or I was just the girl from treatment. Like I knew his brother because I had met him a bunch of times when he would drop him off at my house. I talked to his dad on the phone. I sent Christmas presents over and all the things. But like the mom, that was boys and their mothers. I didn't
Hmm.
know how she felt about me, so I was like, I'm not gonna show up at this woman's house. Like, so I just didn't. I texted him a few times. I didn't get a response, but nope, like that's normal, right? To me, that's normal. The
I don't
next day, they
like
ate.
where this is going. This
Yeah, it's
feels
it's
yucky.
pretty bizarre. It's like in another one of those like bizarre things that I'm a witch. I'm telling you. So I'm talking to my friend that it was an evening IOP. Sometimes we'd like just reach out to one another. We were just chatting all day, and it was like 11, and I heard my phone go off, and I had to get up to go to the bathroom, and I was like, oh, it's, what's her face? I'll just, she's probably just ending the conversation. I'll check in the morning. So I go to the bathroom. I come back. I was like, intuition, check the phone. I'm so sorry for your loss. If there's anything that you need, just let me know. I know how much you love Matt.
What what
What?
wh-
What are you talking about?
who
Like
is this that sent that message?
she was in our IOP. Like at one
Okay,
point,
so
Matt
it's
was
like
in
a
the
mutual.
IOP. Hmm.
Got it. Got it.
Yeah. So what does every person do when they want to find out if somebody died? They go on Facebook, right? Because that's where all the news is. And like Matt didn't have any friends, right? He had like this one kid who was like a really good friend of his. I believe his name is like Panda, or he like goes by Panda, but he didn't have any friends. Like so, I go on Facebook and like sure enough, there was one message on the wall, RIP buddy or something like that, and I'm like, no, no. So like for a good hour, I was just pacing around, just going, no, no, Matt, no, no, no. And again, he didn't have his phone because he had sold it, so I couldn't get in touch with him. The
So
only
clearly this had
person,
to be a misunderstanding or, couldn't be.
right, right, because there was only one message. How would she know? So I was like, all right, it's freaking 12:30 at night now, but do it, because I had his brother's number in my phone, and I was like Jake, I like really hate to do this to you right now, like because it's like 12:30 at night, but like, where's your brother? And he's like, I'm really sorry to tell you, he passed away. He passed away 2 days ago. So when I said no at 8 in the morning, Jacob found him at 12 that afternoon on the kitchen
Oh,
floor, OD'd on
no.
fentanyl. Yeah. So he was using fentanyl. Again, I didn't know because again the boundaries and all the things. So that one was like, I mean, that was rough. I waited. I stayed up all night and I waited till like 8 in the morning to text Michelle, my therapist from Evening IOP. And I mean, this woman didn't have to do anything, like didn't have to be there, nothing. And she just would meet me, and we'd meet on the beach, and she processed that death with me. I was like, Michelle, I can't do this with anybody else. Like, you know all the things. And she was like, for the first time, like very compassionate. Like she was like really in from a compassionate place. It wasn't like I told you so type thing. Like
Sure. She knew what you really needed in each moment. And it sounds like she knew that was the time to shift gears.
yeah. And so like it was dark, really dark for me. Porter, she didn't like ask me to leave, but like it was time. It was like 5 years, and so I had moved into my own apartment, and I was alone. My parents were gone. Um, I have some friends, but they're normal, so it's like they don't get it. Um, so I was like alone, and like it was dark, man. It was it was really dark. It was like in a fork in the road. So you can either continue to go on this right road that you're on or go to the doctor because anybody will give you anything right now. And weird things started happening. I saw a shooting star one night when I was at the beach, like talking to him. I was crying one day really bad, and like a box fell off my like top shelf, and it was like my AirPods box, and it said like Matt was here. Now I packed the old apartment to my new apartment. Why did that fall on my head like that day when I was like freaking out crying? And then like with his service, because it was August and it was still COVID-y, like the thing went up on the internet on the Google thing about like where the service was, but then all of a sudden it disappeared. Like it, you couldn't find it on the internet. And I was like, oh
Hmm.
crap. I was like battling with myself again. I don't want to put any more pain on this family by showing up as that girl from treatment, right? Because I didn't know how his
Sure.
mom felt about me, and I was not about to do that. But like, I couldn't not like, I was so conflicted. So remember sitting on the couch one day and I was scream crying, scream ugly crying. Like, you need to give me a mother sign right now. Like, do I go? Do I not go? Because I had all the information, but I was just like, I'm so
Right.
torn. I swear to God on everything holy, my higher power, all my loved ones. 15 to 20 minutes, my phone beeped. It was his brother. My family and I would love you to come to the service.
I love
The
that.
fuck?
I
I was
love
like,
that.
okay. I was like, you're
I
here, man. You're
sincerely
here.
believe that. Again, opinion, etc., but it's my podcast, so I can do what I want.
Yeah.
I personally believe that there is something after, and that those who have passed on have not always, but they
Yeah.
have a way of letting us know they're there, they're watching, whether it's in dreams or it's with weird signs.
Mm-hmm.
I like paranormal stuff. There is a podcast that I listen to called the Haunted Objects Podcast. Shout out them. Where they talk about, like, please sponsor me or come on as a guest. But they talk a lot about when you deal with things like this, like the paranormal, and um, it's a great approach is to try to come up with every logical explanation first, because then
Yeah.
sometimes you're just left with nothing, and that makes it all the more cool and weird, etc. So when you tell me that, the AirPods that say Matt was here fell, like, that's one of those weird things that it's like, sure, maybe there was an explanation, but like, why do we have to explain that away? Why can't we just accept that that was him and he was pushing you
And it wasn't
towards helping you heal?
and it wasn't just like a random day where I was like fine, and like I was like doing all the things, like crying, screaming. I mean, there was a lot of days like that for the first, I don't even know how many months, because I don't remember August from November. Zero clue. Blackout city, and I wasn't on drugs.
Right. It's
But
the grief blackout. I have been
mhm,
there.
I
It's
did.
not it's
It's a
not a
real.
good
That's
time.
real. But it's
Yes.
real. It's totally real. But so I went to the service, and I remember like walking in. I said hello to his dad again. I like knew who his dad was. Said hello to his brother, but I'd never met his mom before, and like I knew that was going to be hard. I remember like walking up to like where they lay out the body, and it was an open casket, and I just like just stood there, like I was trembling from head to toe, like my body was shaking. And his mom just like came over. She put her, hand on my back, and she walked over to the casket with me, and I fucking lost it. Like, lost it.
Yeah, you're making me lose it a little. Like,
Like
what a
this was someone like
lovely gesture.
I loved this
Yeah.
kid, like loved him. And Anne was so like she zero given. She just stood there, like kneeled with me there the whole time, and like didn't care. She just let me go. And again, I'm just the girl from treatment, like who am I? Like, and she just let me wail and do all the things, and I didn't want to leave. So I like sat at a table. I didn't know anybody. There wasn't a lot of, there was like family, pretty much family friends. And I just sat there, and I just sat there. And then his, mom and dad came over and sat with me, and I was blaming myself. Like, he called me that
Sure.
morning,
And
like,
you carry that weight of coulda,
yeah.
shoulda, woulda.
Yeah. And I mean, his dad was like really, really like like stern with me. He's like, what you would have like, you know, I don't know how he like worded it, but like you would have bought him a couple days, or this, you know, this is not your fault,
Yeah.
you know?
People make their choices and they put themselves on these paths, unfortunately. And like,
Yeah.
that's not our burden to bear,
Yeah,
you
so
know?
my mom had my parents had booked me a flight up to Pennsylvania like the day after his service because they thought I was going to do something to myself. They were letting me stay down here until the service. So like he died on the 6th. His service was on the 16th. So um his mom was like, you know, when you get back, you know, I'd love to like go out to eat with you or something. Like, you know, and I was like, okay, you know.
Oh,
And the relationship I have with his family is like the first year or two, like it was really hard. Like, so my parents are up north. So like I went to that year, I went to Thanksgiving, I went to Christmas, I went to every holiday, everything. I mean, they just like took me in. I wouldn't have gotten through it without them, like at all.
what
They
wonderful
just like
people.
embraced me, like, I mean, like truly loved me. And then again, they didn't have to do this. Like all these people like come into my life and didn't have to and like make these big impacts, but yeah, it was hard like for the first couple of years like sitting at the Thanksgiving table, already awkward because I like, you know, and then like just wishing he would come out the hallway, you know, but Matt, I didn't pick up, right? Like, and I like, I mean, I'm still emotional with like Matt, like
Yeah.
now, and it's 4 years later. I didn't pick up, you know, like didn't pick up. So I finished my master's. I'm married to that thing now because it's like distracting. I got the Riveros. They're right down the street. Like where I moved, they moved from Coral Springs to the Intercoastal. I live like on the other side of Federal, so like 3 minutes away. So she'd watch my cat when I like it's just like
So you
I
had
just love.
basically, you got adopted by this family. They lost a son, gained
Yes,
a daughter in a
yes,
strange
yes.
twist of fate way.
Oh, and like I'm telling you, like Christmas is like I mean, loaded me up. They were so good to me, and they still are so good to me. Ann and I have such a special relationship. Like his mom, sometimes it's hard because Matt looks just like her, like
Ooh, yeah.
ridiculously just like her. So you're like sitting there looking at her. Sometimes it's like, oh fuck, I wish he was here, you know. But
Yeah.
so I finished my master's. I'm interning at the Destination Hope in Tamarack. My boy Dan, he was the I have so I was teaching, so I could only intern for part of my internship on the weekends. And Dan was the group facilitator, and we used to just like challenge each other, like who was doing the better group. I always did. And he like we never like talked on the phone or anything. Like it wasn't like that. Like we just like would like you know banter at work and like usually like he was like talking sports with other people and I was just like in the other room like doing my schoolwork and he'd tell me I can go home and I was like no I'm scared I have to and he's like go home and so he had called me one night and he was like listen he's like you can't tell anybody but I have to tell you I'm leaving Destination Hope and I'm going to this place wellness and he's like, you can't tell anybody, but I want to tell you because, like, you know, because we worked together on the weekends. Like, it was just like us on the weekends or whatever. And
Right, your buddies, yeah.
yeah, so we were like on the phone like this night, like for a while, like just talking to all the things. And he had a girlfriend, so like again, it wasn't like that, like at all. I was still grieving Matt. I had that wasn't even on my agenda, and you know he had a girlfriend and he said to me before he like hung up he's like you know when you're ready like when you graduate stuff I'm gonna take you to wellness. I'll never hear from this dude again like I will because that's what you know where your head goes oh
Sure.
it's my internship the group like I'll never hear from homeboy again one of those witch things within like a week and a half he like texted me he's like I need your resume and I was like I'm not done with school yet he's like I didn't ask I would like your resume and I was like okay. So I sent him my resume. He gave it to the clinical director, Gary, who's the best person ever.
Shout out
And like
Gary.
that was a shout out, Gary. Uh, that was a wrap. Like I had to like come in and do like all like the formal interviewee things, but like I think Gary like says like our interview is like one of the funniest. Like we just like we talked about sports a little bit. Like I think like maybe I was asked a couple questions, but I was solely hired based on Dan's word. So whatever he
Wow.
saw, again, I don't know what he saw because I'm just an intern. Like you can't see yourself, but like whatever he saw, he didn't have to do it. There was like 3 other interns he could have done that for. Like, who was I? But again, these people that come into my life, and I was hired. I went to Pennsylvania for the holidays and came back January 4th. I started at Wellness of 2022. I had this little tiny office and I had a client in there. It was February at this point. It was February 9th, early
Hmm.
in the morning, first client. My phone's ringing, it's beeping. I was like, my dad. My client's like, do you need me to step out? I was like, no. I was like, he knows where I'm at. She's like,
Right.
okay.
It
So then
can
I
wait.
look.
I'm sure it's
Yeah.
nothing, right? Yeah.
It's like
Yeah.
9 o'clock in the morning. What does my dad need at 9 o'clock in the morning on like I think it was like a Wednesday or something. I don't even know what day of the week it was. Then I glanced over the phone and a text came through. I need you to go somewhere alone. I said, okay, I need you to step out now. So I called him and he's like, your brother's dead.
Wow. That point blank, right?
Come on, can I get a break? Like, we just got through that in 2020. Now we're in 2022 and this is going to like, what are we doing, God? Because I haven't picked up yet. What are we trying to do here to me?
Right.
So I
Right.
remember pacing around this tiny little office. I didn't know who to call. Like Dan was my only friend. Like he was my only friend. So I was only working there for a month. I didn't like really know anybody. I didn't like girls, so pace around. I can't call Dan. He's a dude. Like he's not gonna want to like hear that. Like he's gonna be awkward. Like you can't call guys in this
Right. What
situation.
do
So
I
I
do? Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
yeah, I don't want to call my boss. Like it was just like so I paced and I paced. I texted Dr. Green. I texted my best friend Michelle. I didn't cry. I was just like, okay, what do I do? Like, I couldn't get out of the box. I knew I couldn't go out there, but I wound up like calling one of the female therapists, Jama, and I said, I need you to come in here like right now. And she was like, I'm still not crying yet. She was like, okay. So she comes in. I was like, my brother's dead. She's like, she just picks up the phone. She's like, everybody in here now, like all clinical, like, so like there's like all of
Wow.
clinical staff in this tiny apartment and a tiny office. And like when they all came in, I started like crying and I was like, okay, guys, like I'm fine or whatever. They're like, you're go home. And I was like, no, I'm not going home. Like, what are you
So
talking
your
about?
brain's still just like, this is fine.
Yeah.
Everything's fine. La la la.
It wasn't registering like at all.
Hmm.
And like,
Yeah.
like they say, I don't know who they are, but they do say a lot of things. They know a lot.
The infamous they.
Yeah, yeah. So they say like when you have like an addict in the family whose like addiction is like rampant for like 25 years, that you're prepared for it. Like we prepared for years. It was never a matter of like, is Brian gonna die? It was just when is Brian gonna die? I mean, his addiction, I mean, 20 almost 25 years. Um, you're not prepared. You're not prepared. I don't care what anybody says. Because again, 25 years, my family was, you are not prepared. Not at all. So they made me go home. I complied. I didn't have a choice. And I sat in my living room on the end of my couch and I waited for Barbara, Billy's widow, and son to get here. They were driving up from like down from Ocala or something, they found out. And I was down here by myself. So they were coming like, because I didn't have anybody. Probably for a good like 4 or 5 hours. Nothing on, no radio, no TV, in complete silence. And I didn't realize I was sitting there like until they got there. And I was like, oh, I've been sitting here for like 5 hours waiting for you guys. Just sitting at
Just
the end,
this, it's
like,
like shell shock almost. You just sit and you're
mm-hmm.
just, yep.
Yeah. So like, I didn't pick up like at all. I didn't. Nothing. Not even the California sober type stuff. Like no weed. Like, um, I just did it, and I really thought like that was it for my mom. Like that was a wrap for her because like that was her world. That he was her entire world.
Right. Her identity became wrapped into
Oh,
being the savior and the hero and the partner and the, yeah. Wow.
that was Brian did no. I mean, like she was gonna fix him, save him. So many. So I always said like she's like I don't think she's gonna like kill herself or anything, but like she's gonna be like 2 seconds away from the white men with the white coats coming to get her because she's gonna be out
It's
there.
going to break her. Yeah. Yep.
Oh yeah, yeah. So it did like the all the things was really hard. We didn't have a funeral or anything. We had him cremated, but we got to see him. Um, we're like
And it
2 years
was
in, and I
an overdose, right?
yeah, he was in jail for 7 months prior to his overdose, and he got out of jail within 3 to 4 hours. He was dead.
And that's very common. That is a very common thing, is my
Yeah,
understanding. It's like, you've detoxed, you get that bit of freedom, and you go back to use what you're used to using, and then,
yeah.
it hits your system, and that's it.
Yeah, so like I just am now starting to do like the grief work. Like I feel like I have so much more to like talk about like Matt than I do like my brother, because like there's a lot of layers of the onion that I need to peel off. And like I said, I did a lot of work and treatment on it, but after he died, resentment to my mom came up. Like, oh, now you want to be a mom? Like, 'cause she's texting me all the things. Princess, you're my world. Like, I wasn't your world for 38 years. Now that he's dead, I'm your world. Like, it was just like all this bizarre stuff started. Like, and I
It's a
just told my
complicated
brain,
process. Yeah.
I told my brain, we're going to deal with it later. And for 2 years, my brain listened to me. The only thing my brain listens to me was telling myself that like we're going to deal with it later. And like,
Right. Well, we're going to take all this grief and we're going to put it in a box, and we're going to deal with
mhm,
this another time. And
mhm.
yeah.
Because I know how to do that, right? With the traumas, put it in the box. If you don't think about it, don't talk about it, it's not real. I know how to. That's comfortable for me.
Right. And the
That's
funny
back in
thing
my
about
comfort
trauma
zone.
is like, oh, you will deal with it.
Oh
So whether
yeah.
you put it in a box, and you know what, it will come out, and it will start
Hmm.
leaking out in the weirdest ways, and it'll be in your dreams, like we kind of talked about, and it just really starts spilling out. So like, eventually, if you ignore it long enough, it will keep knocking until you pay attention to
Yeah, it's here. It's
it.
here. Like to be honest with you, I'm right now like 4 years like sober. Like I'm back at square. I put myself back at square one. I'm going back to meetings. I'm sitting on the balcony. Like I have to, because like you just said, like it's coming. There's days where I'm spiraling. There's months where I've been spiraling, and like what's the common denominator? You've been stuffing this. And
Yeah.
yesterday was the first day I cried to my therapist about it, and I was like, I don't think I've
Really?
ever said yeah, I said I don't think I've ever said out to my therapist. I've cried about it before, but like, my coworkers were amazing, like amazing. I mean, we went roller skating, and they didn't even like roller skating, just to like do that for me. Like, we would make jokes about it, like, oh, play the brother card, like Mary Kay will get what she wants because her
Yep.
brother's dead. Like, they really just
Gallows
like,
humor. Yes,
man,
I
like
that helps
that
me too.
family, like that wellness family, like that year, like I mean, I don't know what I would have done without them, to be honest with you. But yeah, yesterday was the first day, like I said out loud to my therapist, like I'm affected, like this sucks, like I don't have a brother, like I don't have a brother,
Yep. And then
and I
was that,
miss
do you
him.
think,
Like
yeah, of course you do.
I don't miss the drug addict brother, but like I miss my brother. Like, he was still my sibling. Like we still had so many. It's like an ugly crying.
You are welcome to, or we can pause if you want and tell Kyle to cut this out. Whatever you want
No,
to
this
do.
is real. This is raw. This
It
is this
is.
is what it does. Like this is what this stuff does. Like this is real. And like as painful as it is for me, like I will not like no. Like I will not pick up. Like I can't let any of their deaths be in vain, like they couldn't get help, they couldn't find the help, but like I can, and like now I can help other people.
I
Like
think
be
that's
that source of
incredible.
hope, right? Like I said earlier, if you asked me 5 years ago what would have been your I'm going to use, I would have told you somebody dying. First 2 years of recovery, back to back to back, and I didn't pick up.
That's
I didn't,
incredible.
yeah, I didn't pick
That's
up.
honestly, that's amazing,
And
because
I've
it's
wanted to.
it's a tale as old as time, and that's what I've talked about a little bit with sort of my experience with like uh drinking really bad. Is I not because of COVID, because my grandmother died on January 1st of
Yeah.
2020, and tale as old as time. I drank my way through that first year and a half, probably, because I couldn't cope. And so to be someone in recovery, to deal with like like all grief sucks, but then there are those griefs, that like they strip you down to the studs of a human being and make you
Yeah.
kind of look at everything different. And to be able to look that in the eye and say, you know what, I'm still not using, that's really powerful. And I'm glad you wanted to come talk about it, because I think people need to hear that.
Well, yeah, because I feel like sometimes we want to numb the feelings so much because like they hurt. Like I always say, like I would rather cut my leg off without any drugs or alcohol than feel depression. Like that's terrible pain. Like I'll take a saw, like no drugs, that like straight to my bone. Like I don't want to feel depression because mine like
Yeah.
is bad, rabbit hole and all. Like, so we try to like numb it and like what does having emotions and feelings tell us? Oh, that we're not sociopaths? I don't know, that like we're human. Like it's beautiful. Like I look back at some of this and I'm like, man, like that was really hard for you. Like I talk to my other self and I'm just like,
Mm-hmm.
you did that though. That's a beautiful thing. I think of myself screaming in the pillows at night and like, like closing my screen after like I do a class with my students and just lose it, like lose my mind, after Matt died. And like, it's just like, it's beautiful,
Right.
it
I
just
got through
is.
that. I did that.
Yeah.
That is
Yeah.
such a weirdly empowering experience, I
Hmm.
have found, where you're able to look back and say, like, that was easily the worst year of my life, easily. And then followed by, I got back into kratom addiction, and like that was just a nightmare. And then I got out and I went through shitty withdrawals, and like that sucked. And I got through that, and being able to keep adding to your list of like, and I got through this and this and this. And it kind of, I think you and I are probably similar. And correct me if I'm wrong, but I think we're probably similar in the sense of like, you get this sort of stubborn anger about like, I'm not touching it now. Like, oh, not now. Absolutely not. Because now I've gone through all of that and I've suffered and I've felt all these things and this pain, and I'm not touching it. Absolutely not.
Hmm. And not only will I not touch it, but I'm going to make everybody fear it. Like I work with all females, and every female client I come in that does fentanyl, I look at them first thing out of my mouth as their new therapist in treatment. You're going to die. So if you want to keep playing Russian roulette with your life, go ahead, because it's real. Like you're going to die. There's no other option when you mess with fentanyl. I don't care who you are.
Yes.
You're going to die. You're going to
Yes.
die.
It's
And it's
not
just a matter of like
right.
there's no algorithm for it. Like you could do like a boatload one night and the next night do a tiny bit and done. That's a wrap for you. It's like bizarre, but like you want to keep playing with life, okay? Because I know you only get one ticket. How do I know? Because I lost person after person after person. They ain't coming back. They're not coming back. They'll never
That
be
is
back on planet Earth.
that is a very hard thing, I think, to come to grips with too. The reality of when you lose somebody, and that's it. Like, and all of these things, not to get really sad
Mhm.
about it, but to this day, it just happened with, magical kitten that we were talking about, that, I went for a walk, an old lady gifted me a kitten a couple days ago. It's been really great. But like, you still get those little thoughts like, oh my gosh, I can't wait to show grandmama. And like, man,
Mhm.
she's dead. And that's it. She's
Yeah.
never going to meet this kitten. She's, the kitten's playing on a bed that used to be in my grandmother's house on her favorite Afghan. And just that visual for me of, grandmama, and also a world without her,
Hmm.
and then you think
But
about
can
like,
I challenge that though? Can
please,
I challenge you?
please.
So, like, have you died before?
I have not.
That's a real question. You're like, what is she asking me? So, you have not. So, who are you
Correct.
to say that she's not in that room with you right now and she can see that cat? I don't know what you're like. I'm not going into religion and stuff, but like, I've never died.
Fair.
I don't want to either. For someone who is actively trying to, I don't even go to the grocery store because I feel like I'm going to get into mass shooting and I'm going to be the one to die. Like, will
Yes.
not leave my bubble of my apartment because I'm scared of everything. I want to believe that they're in some capacity. Like, there's no
I
reason why Taylor Swift is on my Amazon thing or whatever that machine is that you kids play music out of these days. And all of a sudden, Kodak Black comes on. Okay, Matt. Hey, I see you. Okay, you're here. Roger that.
Interesting. I agree. I really do. We kind of touched this earlier, and I started going, veering off just so I could plug the Haunted Objects podcast because I love paranormal stuff, but it's those mysteries of life that I think, yes, I do think that she probably has seen her and is probably aware, because there are too many unexplainable things that occur.
Yeah.
And while that's nice, I would like to stay Earthside for as long as I can. So I'm not going to touch
Amen,
a single
sister.
other thing. You know what I mean? Like, not getting into it.
Do you want to know what's weird? Like, I get like all the time, get like chronic, like dry mouth, like whenever I'm talking for this amount of time. And I have not. Like, I've only taken a sip of my drink like twice, I think. And I haven't. This is like the first time. I really think that we're like kindred spirits for each other.
I very, very much agree. I'm, as soon as this is done, like, I'm going to get your Instagram and we're best friends now. This is just the way it works. It's like,
I just feel like I've known you forever. I really do. I feel like I've known you forever, and I haven't. I've just met you, like, I've known Chris forever, but not you.
Surprise!
But I feel like I've just been sitting here talking to my friend about, the story that she already knows.
I've been watching you forever.
Oh, and you're also, if you do take my instance up, I cannot, unfortunately, accept you yet because we are in Lent. As a Catholic, I give up social media for Lent every year, and right now we are in it. So you can go ahead and request it. Just, I don't want you to feel like, oh my God, why isn't she? It's just because we're in Lent and I can't download the app.
I was raised Catholic, so I absolutely understand Lent.
This is the third year I've done it.
Before we completely veer off into other random squirrely topics, because I feel like I could just sit here and chit chat with you all evening, but also it's like 8:30, Mazza Kitty needs attention, husband, I promised to cook him food.
My ears hurt too, these things. Like,
right,
I'm
bro,
old. I don't know how you kids put these like in your ears for so long. Like, my ears are like, please. Okay. Okay.
Well,
so
listen,
back on track.
I know. I do like that we talked about grief, had a good cry or two, and then are being giggly and silly. But like that's life, honestly. But I liked it because it was authentic. So before we wrap up, then, is there anything we haven't talked about that you wanted to cover, or anything that you wanted to say, or do you feel kind of complete on this conversation?
I mean, just like how my recovery works today, because I think that's like important, right? Because
awesome.
We talked about a lot of like hard stuff, and like my life is not unicorns and rainbows by any means. Like, I do not know what happiness is. I do not know if I'm happy. I just know I don't want to be that girl anymore. But like for me, this is again my journey. I have to be honest with myself, right? Like the second I tell myself in my head, you're okay, or you're not craving anything, the smallest thing, I might as well just go get a bottle of pills because that's a wrap for me. And then when I lie to like my person, like, at work, it's Dan, right? Like the second I start lying to him, and I did it not too long ago. I was like, I'm working on my brother stuff. That's why I'm acting crazy. It wasn't like I was lying, like straight up, and it snowballed, and it was bad. Like it was like not, I didn't pick up or anything, but like, mentally. And then,
but you caught yourself doing the like, oh no, this is like, this is bad, Maricay. This is, I don't want to be that person.
Yeah, like 2 weeks straight, I had chest palpitations. I convinced myself I can go to the ER and get a shot of Ativan because that's what they make it for. Duh. Got in my car twice. I had to get out and like called somebody. I was like, I got to tell myself right now because this isn't it. And this is like almost 4 years sober. This was like almost at the 4-year mark. And the other thing is gratitude. Like there is not a day I do not wake up and thank my higher power. Thank God that you didn't give me the ticket I was so desperately trying to ask for, like my ticket out of Earth for how many years. I was actively trying to go because for whatever reason, I see it now in hindsight. I'm a therapist. And I'm helping people every single day. Girls that were just like me, see hope. And if I don't practice honesty and gratitude every day, like that's a wrap. I have 22 journals that I have running since 2019. I journal every single morning like clockwork. And I have 22. I don't look at them, but they're in a box under my bed. And I have to. It's just, I got to do that. Those are my
I love
things. If
that.
I don't,
That you
if I
take
don't
that
do
time
those,
for yourself to do that. That's so
because you know,
important.
I don't know what the life, like the day is going to bring. It could, like, the world could blow up, or like COVID could happen again, but I get that hour. I get that hour every morning. And for me, like, that's been like the biggest thing, just being honest. And that's why, like, I don't think we should edit any of this thing, chapstick and all. Like, this is me. Like, I am an authentic, raw, transparent person. This is what you see is what you get. And I've wore a mask for way too many years. And if
Same.
you don't,
Well, and you mentioned ADHD too. So like,
yeah,
as somebody who was diagnosed only a couple of years ago with that, I get that masking, that like trying to figure out what are the social rules and like, how do I this and how do I that? And after doing it for so long, it is exhausting. That's why I cuss on here, because that's how I talk.
Yeah.
That is just how I speak. Not everybody likes it, and that's fine. No shade. But when I am here in front of the camera, I mean, of course I want to say like, hey, here's what you're listening to, and like, like and subscribe, etc. But ultimately, like, or don't, or hate watch this is what I said in the last one. Like, do you hate me? Great. Come hate watch all of my episodes and pick apart all the things about me you hate. But that's good, because then it will help get this out to the people that need help and need inspiration and whatever. So yes, authentic.
I already know I'm not everybody's cup of tea. I'm sometimes not my cup of tea, and I just can't get away from myself. So I do love myself, but there's some days where I'm like, not today, Satan. Like, you gotta, like, so girl, I get it, but yes. But like, that's okay. You don't have to like me. You're not my tribe. I know who my tribe is. And it's those people that I mentioned throughout this time that just showed up and didn't have to, that stayed and didn't have to, and continue to stay and don't have to. That's my tribe. So
find your tribe.
Honesty, gratitude, find your tribe, and take the masks off,
Yes.
Take it off.
Be authentic, because if you're being authentic, you're being honest, and you're being honest with yourself too. And that is hard. So listen, I get it, as somebody that is, I have therapy every single Friday at, 12:45 for an hour and 15 minutes, because my therapist is amazing. And
mine is
demasking and like trying to find your authentic self, that is hard. That is not like a, oh, I'm going to just be me now. Like, there's a lot of unpacking, a lot of onion layers, like you mentioned before. So it's not like doing these things that we're talking about are just super simple and easy, but if they are not worth it,
it doesn't happen overnight.
No, it doesn't, but it is worth the work. And every day of the process has been very positive, at least for me. It's, I mean, sure, there's shitty days, and, I'm not,
but even those days are good.
Like, yes. I'm not a proponent of like, good vibes only. Like, no, give me your grief and your darkness and your yuck and your, whatever. You're going to have days where you are not going to shower for several days in a row because you are depressed as hell. And like, that is the raw reality. And it still happens to me. I just, had a depressive episode for a couple of weeks, and that sucked. But like, I'm still here. I'm still breathing. So I'm just going to keep moving forward.
That's it. Like, that's a wrap. Like, and you said, like, you go to therapy. I'm a therapist who has a therapist, and I will forever have a therapist. And shout out to Diane, because she's amazing.
Yay, Diane.
Little kindergarten teacher who calls me out of my shit. But she's phenomenal.
Love it.
Oh my God. She's not really a kindergarten teacher. She just looks like one, but she goes in on me, she gave me what I asked for. It's like,
be honest with yourself and find your tribe that's going to be honest with you. That's
because we're not pieces of glass.
Maricay, I love you. We have been chatting for over an hour and a half.
Did we just become best friends?
I think we did. Oh,
we just become best friends.
So yes, did you touch my drum set? So we're going to wrap this up. Who knows if this is going to be 2 episodes or 3 or 7? Who knows? Maybe this is an entire series. It's just Maricay and Jess just talking about addiction. Sick. That sounds really fun, actually.
Actually, yes. Can we get a sponsor? I'll quit my job yesterday. I could reach so many more people on this platform. I will quit yesterday. I will sign the pink slip.
Cool.
Just kidding. Wellness, I love you. Shout out to Wellness.
Sorry.
Don't fire me yet.
Listen, This has been great. Lights of Recovery. We cried, we laughed, we got angry, we got passionate. If you liked this, I'm so glad. So, here's the spiel that I got to do it. Like it, not because like and subscribe. We got to make the algorithm monster happy so that this video can get to other people so it can help them. And then we can make more things so that we can help more people. That's my goal. Please God, don't make me famous though. That sounds awful. Just let's get it out.
Oh God, make me famous.
People.
Hey, internet.
Okay, great.
I'm just kidding.
You be famous.
No, please don't. I don't like people. I don't like people.
Exactly. Well, this is never going to end if I don't just say goodnight. So
okay.
Thanks for hanging out. You stay there because I'm just going to hit stop recording. Thanks, shout out Kyle for editing what I'm sure is just an absolute disaster.
Sorry, Kyle. Sorry, Kyle.
And we will see you next time on Lights Recovery.